Good evening. It is exactly a year since Russia's full-scale military invasion of Ukraine. Thousands have died in the war and millions have fled, with many finding themselves in the UK and the East Midlands, joining up with historically small Ukrainian communities.
Well, tonight, people across the region are gathering in solidarity for Ukraine. We're live from Nottingham and Leicester, where crowds are coming together to hold candlelit vigils. Our reporter Mark Hilesh-Levine is in Nottingham city centre. Now, Mark, you were in the exact same spot a year ago on the day of the invasion. 1 year on, how are people feeling now?
Yes, good evening. Well, the mood is, as you would expect, in Ukraine and across Europe. Ukrainians coming together in a sign of resilience and unity, singing and praying for their country. And yes, I was here exactly a year ago, just hours after the full-scale military invasion, getting reaction from this community in Nottingham that were overcome with grief and with anger. And it was in those first few hours, those first few days of the conflict, where we saw people desperately holding on, struggling to hold on, before deciding that, of course, for the sake of their family, for the sake of their own safety, they had to escape. Filmed from her bedroom window, Vladislava Nagra watches as Kharkiv comes under attack. It's the first few days of the Russian invasion, and the region is being battered by Russian artillery. The explosions creep closer and closer. This was a common sight for her in the morning, a reality many still face in Ukraine daily, as neighbourhoods are torn apart by indiscriminate Russian attacks. It's a world away from her life now in Leicestershire, with her two young children, Sienna and Ethan, and her mother. But back then, it felt like she was waiting to die.
It's terrifying. I'm scared a lot. After all these days when we stay in Ukraine, I cannot eat, I cannot drink, I cannot sleep. I'm just scared, and your body just living, I don't know, in some horrible, you cannot control nothing. You just waiting, maybe next minute, next second you die, and you're living in a hell.
Sienna was only 4 months old and Ethan had only recently turned 1. With thousands of others, she managed to escape on a train to Lviv, a journey taking 23 hours in cramped conditions. Fearful of being attacked, in Kyiv lights were dimmed and silence fell over the carriages. They expected to be bombed. But her priority was always her children.
I crying all the way. Only my mom say for me, you must be strong, stop to crying, because your child seeing this, stop to cry and be strong. I cannot even think, I just crying and I'm afraid of everything. And I traveling with only bags full of food, nothing else, because I thinking only about survive of child, and I don't need clothes, everything what I have. I lost, I live in Ukraine.
Vladislava made it to the UK to join her British husband. Her mother joined 2 weeks later. The Russians never made it into the city centre, and although they controlled large parts of the region, a counter-offensive brought it back under Ukrainian control. But the city is still being attacked, and that's where Vladislava's father and grandmother remain. Such was the trauma of those few days that even in the East Midlands, she does not feel safe.
I think, oh my God, it's bombing. Even near pub, yes, they put garbage in the bin. Sometimes they're doing this too loud, and I'm afraid from this. I just living with bag. This bag ready for run. I have something important in this bag, and if something happening, I'm ready to run again.
Well, listening to Vladislava there, Mark, it's clear that what she's gone through is going to affect her for a very long time. But communities like hers and families like hers, they have grown, and there is perhaps more hope than we saw, well, this time last year.
Yes, that's right, Steve, and you join me with the crowd here singing the Ukrainian national anthem. There is certain hope that perhaps wasn't here this time last year. People didn't know how things would go. They thought that they would be homeless, perhaps even stateless too. The situation has improved slightly in Ukraine, although, let's be honest, it's still not good. But Ukraine have recaptured many of the cities that Russia gained in those opening few days of the war. With me is Mike Hollard, who's the chair of the Ukrainian Culture Centre. And Mike, although things aren't fantastic at the moment, there is hope here that maybe wasn't last year.
No, I think literally 1 year ago, 365 days ago, we stood here in utter shock, horror, disbelief. The fact that we're here a year later says a lot for the Ukrainian nation, how brave they are and resilient. Nobody wanted to be here a year later, but we're in it for as long as it takes, and it just goes to show that, you know, Ukraine will win.
The community has grown here, as we've mentioned. How has the centre been helping people that have come over from Ukraine?
Our role from day one, once we got over tried to get over the shock and the horror of everything, was as a committee to clearly get together and be supportive, knowing there were going to be refugees arriving. And so in working with the local authorities, that's our role, is to support and be a safe haven for our new arrivals.
And Mike, just lastly, what have the community been saying to you?
Well, they've been they're grateful that we're here, and they've got it's not the second home, clearly, but they've got something Ukrainian in the local area, something tangible that they can link to, and I think that is vital. If you try to put yourself in their shoes, that would be, I'm sure, would be something we'd all be striving to find in the area that they're calling home for the time being.
Mike, thank you very much for coming on the programme again this year. Well, as I said before, there is hope that perhaps wasn't there before. President Zelensky said that victory is inevitable if the Allies do their homework. That will be a sentiment shared by those here who simply want to go home and hug loved ones again.
Yes, I'm sure they do. Mark, thank you very much indeed.